Hello and welcome to day 4 of Nottingham Poetry Festival. Thank you so much for joining us here. My name is Georgina Wilding and I'm the Creative Director of Nottingham Poetry Festival and also very proud to be your host this evening. Thank you for joining us. You'll see on the Zoom, I can see you all down here, that we have the chat function up and ready so that we can hear from you because we can't see you in the room. It's such a shame. I wish that we were all here together, but the times are very, very strange. However, that doesn't mean that we can't interact. So we have a few tips and tricks for you to get us loud and present and excited for tonight's gig. So normally you would all be in front of me and I'd be able to hear you clapping and cheering. Instead, tonight, what we're going to ask you to do is to put your hands together by sending us some hashtags. So in this chat, when you type a hashtag, we know that you are clapping your performers, clapping the host, maybe me, maybe I get a clap, woo! Maybe the tech gods up in the back of the room get a clap. Send us some hashtags. Yes, I can see them. This is great. Thank you, everyone. Oh my goodness me, it's so exciting. All right, so some of you in the audience may have been to a poetry gig before. Some of you may not. If it's your first time, welcome. So normally, when you hear a poet read, they might say a line or they might have an idea that they speak to you that really resonates with you, but they're in the middle of their set, so you can hardly stand up and be like, wow, that was amazing. So instead, what we do is we click. Have you ever seen that? You ever seen that in the comedy gigs and the sketches of poets, right? They see us clicking. Well, instead of a in-person click, tonight we're going to ask you to send us an asterisk when you want to click, the little star on your keyboard. So if you can all do a practice click with me and send me some stars. Yes. Thank you, thank you. Emma, Jessica, Tommy, great. I can see all the clicks. This is fantastic. Oh, it's so nice to know that you're all there on the other side of the screen. What a strange year it has been. But speaking of this year, we have been galvanised at Nottingham Poetry Festival to ensure that poetry is here to stay. I mean, it will be here to stay, but we want to work extra hard to make sure that everybody has access and everybody knows the magic and the power of poetry. So this year, we have ramped up our education arm, and we've done that by offering you workshops. Now, we've already had a few of those take place, so some of you may have joined in and have written wonderful new work. That's great, but that's not all we've done. We've been working with our support acts and we've been working with local schools to create poetry workshops that we pre-record and zoom in to schools all across Nottingham. Now, some of you may know that the government suggested that with all the trouble we're having with COVID, poetry becomes optional for GCSE students as of 2021. We want to make sure that poetry is there regardless of what decision is made, which is why we've been working so hard to put these poems and these workshops and all of the resources into as many schools and into your hands. The power is with you. So if you're interested in joining a workshop, you absolutely can. You can go to nottinghampoetryfestival.com and you can register. We have one tomorrow with the wonderful Pete Temp at 7 o'clock, and he's going to be doing a people's history of spoken word. It's going to be great. So make sure that if you want to tune in, you register and you get yourselves there. Thank you, everyone. So as you know, you are here for a full night of poetry. We have 3 beautiful poets to bring to you. We're going to start the evening with the wonderful Ravel Sade. We're going to move on to Sue Allen. We're going to have a little break so you can fill up your cups of tea and get comfy again. And then we'll have the headliner, Vanessa Kisuule. And after that, you even get a live Q&A with Vanessa, which I'm so excited about. I've seen her do great work, so it's it's going to be really interesting to hear what nuggets of information she shares with us all tonight. All right, without further ado, everyone, I am going to introduce to you our first support act of the evening. Ravel Sade, stage name A Poetic Perception, is a self-proclaimed accidental poet who started writing 2 years ago, just 2 years ago. And her work mainly focuses on mental health and the power of self-acceptance and self-belief. A week after writing her first poem, she got invited to share at her very first poetry event. Accepting herself and her anxiety, she went for it. An audience member approached her explaining that the poems had helped her normalise their experience. And from that day, Ravel has been actively sharing her insights with hope that it helps others. Since then, she's gone on to share her poetry at numerous events, such as with the NHS, Nottingham Splendour Festival, BBC Radio, Nottinghamshire Pride and Youth Parliament, as well as being a runner-up for an award at the Black Achievers Awards 2019. And recently, she was appointed as a trustee at New Perspectives Theatre Company. Please, everybody, put your hashtags together for Ravel Sade.
Hi everyone, my name is Ravel Sade. I am also known as a poetic perception, and if that's not a big enough clue, I am a poet, spoken word artist and workshop facilitator. I am absolutely over the moon to be supporting Vanessa today, and I hope that you guys have enjoyed the performances today and obviously for the past couple of days, and I hope you continue to enjoy the performances too. Yeah, also I want to give a really big hats off to the team working behind the scenes. See, I rhymed. I'm a poet. Behind the scenes for the Poetry Festival, because like not knowing whether to do it live and adapting and changing and all of this stuff. So genuinely, I believe that you guys are doing commendable work. So yes, I am going to get straight into it. I've got 10 minutes, and the first poem I've got is called SOS, Solitude or Survival. This came about basically when being in the last lockdown and just acknowledging and assessing things about myself that came up that I wanted to explore. So yes, SOS. Sometimes I thrive in solitude. My mind gets time to freely wonder, to explore all the complexities of my being, to read, to research, to feel, to breathe, to be. But I often dance the fine line between solitude and survival. Sometimes this space becomes the only place that I feel free, where it feels safe to be me. I am gently reminded that my feelings do not equate to my reality. I am beginning to understand that this sanctuary can be created wherever I plant my feet. If only I believe that I am worthy of simply being me. There is so much beauty to be seen in the nature of vulnerability. Thank you. Just going to imagine that I can hear some claps and some clicks and all of this stuff going on. Still taking some getting used to doing these performances whilst just looking at a camera and imagining people's reactions. So yes, the next one I've got is called When You Say My Name. And I thought that our names are probably the thing that is like repeated the most, something that we hear most often, most common. And so I thought, why just waste it as just words? Like, why can't I put a meaning to this and remind myself of something? Every time someone says my name, I can find a way to feel consolidated in my foundation. So yes, when you say my name, I have decided to give my name meaning. I have decided to give my name life, so that when I hear a specific set of syllables, I feel my soul ignite. Our parents, they name us before truly knowing who we are. I called a galaxy because she was destined for the stars, but only we know what is in our hearts. Only we know how to harness our art, so I want to remind myself. I want to ensure that I don't forget. That when I hear a specific set of syllables, I reintroduce myself as if we've not already met. Because Revel Sade stands for love. Revel Sade stands for compassion. Revel Sade stands for loyal and trustworthy, with more passion in my bones than you could imagine. So when I hear my name, I feel empowered and I feel worthy. When I hear my name, I grow roots, knowing that no gale force can overturn me. Thank you. Pretty sure you can just hear the paper as well wafting as I'm doing it all. So one of the things that lockdown brought up for a lot of people, to be honest, is the whole Black Lives Matter march, and like just speaking of the inequalities that were going on. And I feel like it shed a lot of light with the death of George Floyd. And I feel like it was a very intense period. Also, I think that it was a bit hard to deal with the fact that when you're speaking out just about becoming equal, not even necessarily integrated or included, but just equal, people still had a problem with that. And so I ended up writing a poem called Imposed Inferiority, just to, from my point of view at least, try and explain what it meant to me. So yeah, here we go. It may be a shock. It might come as a surprise that coloured friend that you've known for years is suddenly speaking out about Black lives. They've never had a chip on their shoulder before. They've never expressed their upset to you. You're starting to wonder whether they've directly been affected. Maybe they're just jumping on the bandwagon too. But before getting defensive, please ask yourself this question. How do I react when race is addressed? Is it an open or awkward conversation? Also, if me and my friend were so close, why is this something that they find hard to mention? You know me, I'm not racist. Oh, you know what I mean. Are you really pulling the race card? Can't you just get over that already? But if the mission is to understand, then it's important to actually listen. Because it helps neither of us to turn misunderstanding into opposition. This isn't an attack on you. This isn't a declaration of superiority. This is simply people uniting to end imposed inferiority. Thank you. So the last one I've got is called Survivor's Guilt, and I wrote it just because speaking about that period in time where a lot of things were happening, I feel like a lot of people were calling on Black people to share their experience, to kind of put it out there, to like have all the answers of how to help and how to break it down and all of this stuff. But also, as I say, seeing a lot of these atrocious videos that were just bombarding the news feeds, and I've openly said that if these were animals in these videos, they would probably be banned. And so the trauma that came from that, and having to see that in a time where we depended on social media so much to connect with people because of the lockdown, was very triggering. It was very intense. And so I wrote a poem called Survivor's Guilt. To all the ethnic minorities who have seen nothing but atrocities on your social feeds when you already suffer with PTSD from your experience, please do not see your hesitation to speak as weak. Please do not feel guilty for taking a break from the internet. This doesn't mean that you are trying to forget, but taking time to collect and process the years of hurt that you have learned to suppress. Please remember that rebellion starts in the mind. So if you're taking time to overcome imposed imposter syndrome, to reject the idea of worthlessness, to break intergenerational trauma, or you're battling an inferiority complex, then take that time to figure out your feelings, to acknowledge that you may be grieving, to see that you've been deceived, and finally receiving confirmation that your existence was never the problem. So let's ensure that while some fights may be physical, the mental war is never forgotten. Thank you for your time, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening. Please look me up on social media if you've enjoyed anything that I've said today, anything that I've shared with you. And as I say, enjoy the rest of the festival. Take care, and thank you for listening to me.
Yes, rebel! Rebellion starts in the mind. I hope that is something that we all take away from this evening and from 2020's Poetry Festival. Rebellion starts in the mind. What an incredible performance from an incredible performer. You can see why she's doing all of the sets in Nottingham, all of the open mics. She's an absolutely incredible poet on the scene, climbing. You just watch. She'll be headlining here in no time. All right, so I want to hear from you guys. Where are you watching this from? I can see you all sending hashtag claps and clicks. It's great. It's so good. But I want to know where you are. Are you on your sofas? Are you in your bedrooms? Are you? Oh, look, already I can see some in beds. Anybody watching this? I think this is bougie. Are you watching it in the bath? Anyone lucky enough to have a TV in the bathroom? Or laptop precariously balanced? On your sofa, under the cat. My favourite place to be in Carrington, yes. Oh my goodness me, look at you all. In my room at my desk, watch your back, on the table. Hey, I think I know that table. In bed in knots, yes, my favourite place to be. Ilkeston, hey. This is great. I'm so glad. I wish we could be together, but I'm glad that we are together like this at least. It's so important to be here, and I'm so proud that we're here together. And what an opening act, right? This is why poetry is here to stay. So I want to introduce to you our next support act. Now, we're going to welcome to the stage Sue Allen. I've had the pleasure of seeing Sue gig in a smoky bar or a little cafe, and no matter where she is always fantastic. So let me read to you Sue's bio. Sue has been writing and performing poetry around the open mic circuit in Nottingham, Derby and surrounding areas for many years. It's true. A member of DIY Poets. Big up DIY Poets. If there are any of you in the audience, let us know. Type DIY. She's a member of the DIY Poets, and she's performed at the Edinburgh Free Fringe Festival in 2019. That is amazing. She has a feminist perspective to her work, yes. And her first collection, Rude Awakenings, released in 2018, showed a witty swipe at patriarchy. That's what I'm here for. She is quoted to say, sometimes she might be funny. She is always outspoken. And she fights the corner for the older woman. Welcome, please, to the stage, hashtags together, for Sue Allen, everybody.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to this rather strange experience of the Nottingham Poetry Festival. But hopefully we'll all enjoy what we see, what we share, and have a fabulous time with lots of fabulous poets. I'm going to start with Hourglass. Gritstone, running through waspy waste. I do not need a blow of glass to define me. I have my own shape. Uncorseted, I run into curves, slip into hips, distend into bellies, flow into my own being. Time has run its riot of me, casting out the hours in salt lines, drawn in hair, across faces, down arms, towards marrow bone fingers. Tap, 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 tapping on the glass of your existence. I like to write about kind of ethereal things and base one or two things that I've written on fairy stories, and this is based on Rumpelstiltskin. You wanted rings, the strings of gold, spun through straw by nameless hands. We made bargains about babies, started choosing names. I got scared, started spinning webs of deceit, changed my name. We untangled, turning gold into thatch like rumpled skin. We don't know what to call it. Threadbare, tarnished, pyrite. And it's a great thrill to me to be invited to do this. I greatly admire Vanessa and her work, and I feel we share an understanding of women's experience, albeit coming from different directions. So this is another fairy story. This is Rapunzel. After spending her life looking for shortcuts, she lost faith in pigtails and locks. She found the key to her freedom in stubble fields. Passing her hand across freshly shorn crown, she understood the deception of hairnets and hierarchies. Too many honey-voiced strangers had attempted the ascent. In the end, the tension on her tresses taught her she could weave her own escape. Stripped free of her hair shirt and donning her docks, she made the descent. Hand over hand, down over down, she hit the ground running, leaving behind only a golden plait and a razor blade. This is quite a new one. It's from my new collection, available now if anyone wants it, and only £4. It's called Lots Why. It's about feeling that you can't move, that sensation after you've had a trauma that you need to hold the space that you've got and you can't kind of move on. So you contemplate where you're standing. So lots why. There's comfort in salt, the tiny electrolyte pulsations of preservation. My movements are small, grain-like, wind eroded. No man can live a life unsalted. I hold him calcified in my caustic eye. Well seasoned, insoluble acuity, I bear witness to the betrayal of angels. Their crystalline tongues, bland betrayings, fed at my table and asked for salt. Looking back, I see the trick of it. Held in hydroxide ions, bound by elemental nature, finding comfort in salt. I've worked a lot around coming to terms with certain aspects of grief and loss, and this is another one on a similar vein. It's about feeling that you don't belong and you can't kind of visualise your life moving on. It's called Ghost. I am the hour after midnight, the dark corner slumped, the lipstick smudged afterthought of the day. I am the scarred tabletop, pot-marked, beer-stained, rocking to a beat no one can hear. I am the broken night, the broken bottle, the broken promise, hiding in the half-light of a broken smile. I am not the promise of morning, looking for a new day. I am a leftover from the night before, mouthing words to a forgotten song, long after the band have gone. I wrote this some time ago. I don't think I've ever performed it before. It's about the experience of being, you know, just a housewife, that lovely term. Oh, I'm just a housewife. I don't worry about being just a housewife because, quite frankly, I'm rubbish at being a housewife, so it doesn't bother me. But this is for those who feel they're just a housewife. It's called Captive Butterfly Wives. Sirocco winds blowing across the estate, driven by the chaos wings of captive butterfly wives, caught in the net of domestic distraction, foiled by the lure of love, that brief sham of sunlight, redefined in moonlight reflections, into promises that fade with the dawn. Blue and white striped carrier bags, overflowing with economy price disappointment, anchor them to reality, smother their dreams of flight, the breathless burden of an everyday existence, fluttering against the glass of the bell jar, slowly filling with cyanide. I'm a miserable git, aren't I? This was inspired by Cathy Duffy and a famous poem, Standing Female Nude. And I kind of thought about Pablo Picasso's way of showing the female form, which is always disjointed and strangely off. Although I do quite like him, but it is odd. You've got me all wrong, Pablo, trying to corner me with your palettes. I gave you the brush off as you mused on my angles. You have your concept, I have mine. I have no need for your many tacks and terms. Traced into your reality, I lose my femininity. It does not look like me. Thank you. Look, a book. If you've not got one, get in touch. I'll sell you one. This is called Isolation. This was written very recently as part of this new collection. And it was kind of inspired partly by the corona isolation, but it's also about emotional isolation and that feeling of being separate from other people. We sit in the eye of our potato couch, each one hollow with regret. We ran out of ideas for potato prints days ago and started carving shapes into the space that lay between us. It had to happen eventually. the vivisection of the past, the blade scoring points on the soft underbelly of the half-forgotten elephant. Each stroke drawing deeper and deeper lines across the stale grey flesh. The room is filling with the stench of accusation. You try to tempt me out of it, seeking fresher air, but I cannot cross the threshold. Seeing them massing at the gate, I retreat. Taking up my own scalpel, I begin my own dissection. Seeing the elephant spatchcocked before me, I start assessing his age by counting the rings of his heart, the breaths held in his leather lungs, the salt calcified in his tear ducts. I'm getting used to it now, the blood on the carpet. They say elephants never forget the past, etched in their hide-and-seek silence. And that's all I've got. Thank you so much.
She says, that's all I've got, like it wasn't absolutely fantastic. Oh my goodness me. Hashtags together for Sue Allen. That was amazing. Oh my goodness. Yes, I can see you all in the chat. This is great. Brilliant, Sue. Everyone's saying, Sue for president. Yes. Oh, that was wonderful. What an incredible set of support acts we've had this evening. I feel so empowered, and I love the way that Sue has looked at fairy tales and she's used them and twisted them and turned them into her way of looking at feminism and looking at her, you know, her outlook on the world. It's an incredible technique, so it was really a joy to watch, and elephants are my favourite animal, so thank you, Sue. We have a couple of minutes and I feel like experimenting. So we've had a little bit of a feminist outlook, a political outlook. Ravel was talking about what a privilege and a pleasure it would be to be able to have sanctuary wherever you step your feet. Wherever you place your feet, you feel whole, you feel safe, you feel you. So I want to see if together in this here chat, we can write a group poem. I want you to think about what it is to be you, to be a person, to be an individual, to have your own outlook on the world, to be your own person, right? And I want you to tell me what things make you, you. I'm going to start with the sentence, I am, and then your thing. And I want you to post it in the chat. So I am guilty, late night shopping on ASOS. That's definitely me. What are you? Please let us know. I want to know what you are. I am chocolate biscuits. I am a secret dancer. I am a fast-flowing river of glacial melt. I am brave. Yes, I am strong and northern. Yes, I am eating all the cake on the planet. Yes, I'm hungry. Yes, I am houseplants. Feel you. I'm a strong woman. I am slave to the cat. Me too. I am blue heron. Oh my goodness, it's going so fast. This is great. I am curly whirly. I am a whirlwind of contradiction. That is such a thing to own because everybody is. I am a jazz singer in a slinky dress. I am marching backwards into the future. I am breath. I am the breeze. I am a peaceful protester. Oh my goodness me, I am unrepentant. Yes, I am a party popper yet to go off. Oh my goodness me, I am a friend. I am a quiet Saturday night drinking coffee and blends. Oh, how I miss that. I am a turtle. I am oven chips. I am the star that's yet to be. I love that. Love that. Confidence. I am the lounge clubber. Oh my God, aren't we all? I am alive and I am here with you. Oh my God. I feel like we're all together. This is amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. What an incredible, and you're still going. This is great. The ideas, I'm a rumpled ringlet. I am oh my goodness me, I'm a cup of tea and a biscuit. I am a dunker. I am definitely with you on being a dunker. It is an important position to hold. Oh, well done, everybody. Hashtags to you all, claps to you all, clicks to you all. Amazing. It is so, so reassuring to know that you're all here and enjoying yourselves. And can I just say, the wonderful tech gods in my ear tell me that there are 105 of you on the other side of this screen. So hello to 105 of you. This is so great. I'm really, really pleased to be here with you tonight. I wish we could share a beer together. Did you know that this poetry festival, although, yes, okay, it's a little bit delayed, it's a little bit later in the year than we normally do it, this poetry festival is actually our 5th birthday. Can you believe it? Happy 5th birthday to us, and happy 5th birthday to Nottingham and to all of you poetry lovers out there, be it new or be it poetry lovers from the day you started walking. Happy bloody birthday. We're here together and celebrating despite everything. And I think despite everything is the theme of this year for everybody in every way, whether you're at home, like Sue was saying, just a stay-at-home mum, you know, you're dealing with everything that's going on at home, despite everything. You know, people are going to uni, people are trying their best to work, to find work, to get new work, to cling to old work, to write, to be creative. There's so much going on, and yet we're here together this evening, despite everything. So I think we should send some hashtags to you. Hashtags to you, everybody. And despite everything has been something that we've spoken a lot to Arts Council England about. Because, of course, at the start of this year, when we were planning for the festival to be in May, we had everything in place and we had beautiful spreadsheets and lots of places organised and everything was going great, and suddenly it all changed and went up in the air, and the Arts Council have been nothing but a support to us every single step of the way. And when we got back together in September and said, oh, there might be a way we can do the festival just online, the Arts Council said, let's do it. When we said, lockdown 2 is coming, what do? Can we give it to everyone for free? Arts Council said yes. So I want everyone to put their hashtags together for the Arts Council too, because they've helped us be able to deliver this to all of you for free. We don't have to worry about everything else when we're spending money on poetry, right? Look, the hashtags, I'm so proud of everybody. Thank you. It really is something so close to my heart that we get poetry out there and we get poetry to everybody, and we allow people the space to write and to grow, and we bring up the new talent to appear on this stage, which reminds me to fill you in on the rest of the gigs and workshops we have coming this week. So I'm going to consult my neat piece of paper here that is much more organised than my brain, and tell you that, as you know, we've already mentioned, tomorrow at 7 o'clock we have Pete the Temp delivering from Homer to Hip Hop, which is a people's history of spoken words. I'm really excited about this because Pete the Temp is an incredible performer in of itself, so it's going to be really great. And then on Wednesday we have the wonderful Anthony and Axaguru performing, and on Thursday we have an event that's really, really close to my heart. We have Nottingham Poetry Festival's debut panel discussion, and what we've done there is we've hired 5 poets from lots of different facets of the poetry industry. So we've got published poets, we've got page poets, we've got lecturers, we've got slam poets, we've got all sorts here to talk to you about why it's important that we keep poetry available for everybody, and we help people to discover poetry through things like schools and workshops, and what more we can do to support that. And then on Friday, this is very special. On Friday, we have the founder of Nottingham Poetry Festival, Henry Normal, performing. It will be great. Please join us if you haven't already. Not to mention, we also have workshops from Jack McGowan on Thursday, looking at making the the Ordinary Extraordinary. We have Nick McCower. He has workshops on Friday talking about writing as a stranger. And we have Nottingham Can Presents workshops that are going on throughout the whole of the festival. There's lots of them. They're all themed. There's some about mental health. It's going to be great. So if you want to be up here performing and reading, please take part in some of the workshops. Watch the shows. It will be such an inspiration, and hats off to you for doing so. All right, so we're going to take a little break now. I will see you all back here, hopefully with cups of teas full, maybe glasses of wine full. I might have a sneaky beer. I will see you at 7:55. Enjoy, and hashtags together for all of our supports. Well done, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hope you've got your teas, your coffees, maybe a little wine, and you're all cozy and comfy at home, ready for the final bout of day 4 of Nottingham Poetry Festival. So you might have noticed that I am not coming to you from my sofa or my bed. No, I am actually in the studio at the wonderful Metronome in Nottingham. And Metronome have been very good to us. And Craig has been very good to us. Our wonderful boss, host, idea generator. I definitely ring him late at night and say, Craig, I've made the decision. Was it right or was it wrong? And he helps us out. So I just want to say a little thank you to Metronome, to the beautiful tech team at the back of this room that I wish you could all see, to Craig, to Metronome, to all of the staff that have made this happen, to the tech, the little microphones in my ear, all of it is here tonight to bring us in Nottingham and beyond, by the way, because I've seen some of you checking in from far, far away. Poetry. It's all about the poetry. It's all about the words and the safe space. And not only do I want to thank Craig, who is a constant support to me and Metronome, but also to Beth, who has helped me right the way from last year when I was thinking, creative director, what should I put on for the Poetry Festival in 2020? What do you think, Beth? Is this realistic? She was great. She has helped me. She has helped me sound out every idea, and she is behind the scenes daily helping us make decisions. So thank you to the rest of the team that maybe you don't get to see or hear about. There's lots of us planning and bringing all of this to you. So please, hashtags together for Beth, for Craig, for Metronome, and for everybody else who helps us, not to mention our incredible founder, Henry, who is performing on Friday. Please check in. He is hilarious. It's going to be great. I want to tell you also about our evaluation forms, which normally would be a boring thing to bring up, but not here at the Poetry Festival. Oh no. All of you, all 105 of you in this chat are going to get an email at some point over the next few days with the evaluation form for tonight. Now, if you fill out that evaluation form, you'll notice, and please do fill it out, you'll notice that at the bottom, we ask you if you would like to enter a competition. And that competition is to win a book from a headliner of your choice. So please, please do, when you get the email through from us, check out the evaluation form, fill it out, be honest. It helps us to work out what we can do better, what we should do again, and how we can change and grow with what you want and what the city needs and what poetry needs for all the years to come. So please, please, it's kind of admin-y, but if maybe you have a tea or a wine, it won't be so bad. That's how I tackle my admin anyway. So we are about to watch the incredible Vanessa Kisuule perform for us. And you know, I mentioned before, when you hear a poet read, sometimes they say a line, or maybe they're talking about an issue or something that makes you feel so connected and so passionate, and so you feel like, I really understand what you're saying, and you want to click, right? Well, please keep clicking and keep hashtagging. But remember that we have a live Q&A with Vanessa this evening. So if while you're watching her, you think of a question that you want to ask, maybe the question is about a poem that she's written or about a line that she uses, you can use your time now to type that question into the chat. And my wonderful colleague Tommy is going to be looking for all your questions, and he's going to send them up to me, and I will ask them to Vanessa for you when we go live. So this is an incredible opportunity again to pick the brains of the artists that are in front of you here tonight, and to learn and to get ready and prepare for yourselves to, of course, be famous poets up on this stage come maybe even 2021. Are you a fast learner? I hope so. If not, join the workshops. You'll get there. That's my advice to you. So I am going to stop, and I'm going to introduce Vanessa Kisuule. Now, I have had the pleasure of seeing Vanessa perform live on multiple occasions. I've even listened to her on the Guilty Feminist podcast. She is such a powerhouse of a poet, and I'm really, really excited that we get to showcase her this evening. So, Vanessa is a writer and performer based in Bristol. She has won over 10 slam poetry titles and was the recipient of the Jerwood Micro Arts Bursary in 2017. She's performed at an array of renowned poetry events and venues such as the Royal Albert Hall, the British Library, the Bristol Old Vic, Tong Fu, Chill Pill in London, as well as many festivals including Shambala, WOMAD, Wilderness, Secret Garden Party, and even Glastonbury. Amazing. Her poetry collections Joyriding the Storm and A Recipe for Sorcery are both published by Burning Eye, and her work was highly commended in the Forward Prize Anthology 2019. Her one-woman show, Sexy, toured with the kind support of Arts Council England, big up Arts Council England, Bristol Old Vic and Camden People's Theatre. She is the Bristol City Poet 2018 to 2020. Give it up, hashtags together for Vanessa Kisuule, everybody. Woo!
Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Kisuule and I'm here to do a set for you from the comfort of my own home. We were supposed to be in Nottingham doing a social distance gig, but you know the conclusion of this story. At home we must remain, so hopefully you are tucked up somewhere nice and cozy with a hot beverage of your choice. I actually don't have a tea to hand, which is a real oversight on my part, but I'm here in my home. Unfortunately, I can't do a humble brag of how many books I own because my bookshelf is just slightly out of shot, but I assure you it's full of, you know, very important literary tomes. Definitely no copies of 50 Shades of Grey lingering in there. Let's do some poems, shall we? So I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote this year, in amongst all of this COVID madness, and it kind of blew up on social media, which was a really affirming but also strange experience, as those things inevitably are. So, as I'm sure you're aware, on June the 9th, we have a statue of Edward Colston. Well, we did have a statue of Edward Colston in the centre of Bristol, where I live. And on June the 9th, that statue got pulled down during a Black Lives Matter protest. So I wrote a piece inspired by that action. And as I said, there was a really big response to the piece. And I feel like that moment in Bristol really precipitated a conversation that has been happening on the peripheries, but was very much brought to the forefront of our minds after we pulled that statue down. And then lots of statues that have stood proud for a long time in the UK of, you know, figures like Cecil Rhodes, etc. We're finally getting to a point where those statues might also come down too, not to erase history, but to decide that we don't want to venerate people who did despicable things. So it's a really exciting time to be alive. And this poem was my contribution to that conversation, and it's called Hollow. You came down easy in the end, the righteous wrench of two ropes in a grand plie. Briefly you flew, corkscrewed, then met the ground with the clang of toy guns, loose chains, a rain of cheers, standing ovation on the platform of your neck, punk ballet, Act 1, there is more to come. And who carved you? They took such care on that stately pose and propped chin. Wise and virtuous, the plaque assured us. Victors wish history static and odorless, but history's a sneaky mistress, moves like smoke, Colston, like saliva in a hungry mouth. This is your rightful home, here in the pit of chaos with the rest of us. Take your twisted glory and feed it to the tadpoles. Kids will write raps to that syncopated splash. I think of you lying in the harbour with the horrors you hosted. There is no poem more succinct than that, but still. You are permanent. You who perfected the ratio. Blood to sugar to money to bricks. Each bougie building we flaunt haunted by bones. Children learn and titans sing under the stubborn rust of your name. But the air is gently throbbing with newness. Can you feel it? Colston, I can't get the sound of you from my head. Countless times I pass that plinth, its heavy threat of metal and marble. But as you landed, a piece of you broke off, fell away, and inside, nothing but air. This whole time, you were hollow. And so continuing on that theme of historical legacy, the things that we choose to put on a pedestal and conversely, the things that we choose to sweep away or remove entirely. This next piece is dedicated to Alice Walker and Zora Neale Hurston. So Zora Neale Hurston is a writer who very nearly was rendered into obsolescence. She died effectively penniless and was buried in an unmarked grave. And her work, though she'd been very popular during the Harlem Renaissance, had more or less sort of disappeared out of print. And up to this day, we probably would never have known who Zora Neale Hurston was if it wasn't for Alice Walker, who went to find her grave and worked hard to make sure that her work came back into print and back into circulation. And I think that's a really powerful demonstration of the responsibility we all have to our specific histories and legacies, whether that be us as Black women, whether that be queer histories, the histories that are on the periphery, the histories that we're often to not hear. We're used to not. Let me start that sentence again. We're so often used to not hearing in our sort of conventional history books or history lessons. So I wanted to read this piece as a celebration of these two Black women and how they seem to be in conversation with each other, supporting each other through the legacy of their work. A nondescript day, cold and brisk as the epitaph no one thought to search for. A gravestone minds its business, with the same grace as abandoned books and slow healing wounds. But here, in a moment hushed and pulsing, she's coming. Alice, remember, you were 14 years into flounder and she found you, pulled all that sad from you like a damp rope of lavender. That book beckoned you to a place stinking of burnt dinners, unfinished thoughts, the mortal pauses between laughter, grimace, kiss of teeth. There were women squatting between pages, purple with gossip and gospel, the prophecies only cleaning ladies and wet nurses know. It's a necessary sin to disturb the dead, place sharp hooks in their turgid throats and tug. Here they cling, the legacies that only made it halfway up the throat. We know this, us who were forced to thieve our own stillborn history. At the notion that this soil doesn't know us, we smile and offer up the exhibit of our fingernails, brown as the mothers that bore us. We take damn good care of our ghosts, nursing them like newborns. So this next poem is called Where's Wally? Is it called Where's Wally? Not really. It's actually from the perspective of his mum, because I actually think that Where's Wally is a little bit of a cheeky shit, constantly disappearing into crowds of similarly dressed people just to mess with us all. And I don't think this upsets anyone more than his mother. So this is a poem for her. The first time it happened, all we had to do was move through the crowd, heads hung low on our necks like snorkelers. It was your father that spotted you, that chestnut hair, a rusted nail glowing in the gaps between bodies. Nauseous I was, in that giddy tide, like I'd eaten a whole bag of raspberry candies for breakfast. But you stood there, firm as a lighthouse, my little chameleon boy. I'd never seen you so happy. Just like that, crack. A clean, straight fissure through my silly little heart. So I had to commit, learn the graceful dance of losing you, but you know me. 2 left feet and a habit of treating shoulders like cliff faces. What did I do wrong? I'd ask your father. He'd find the wrong words in the same order, offer them all sheepish like flowers nicked from a neighbour's garden. We bribed you in every colour we could think of, new jumpers in black, blue, mustard yellow. But what young boy wants to stand out? And to think it was 15 Decembers ago, 2 balls of wool bought on a whim from that fabric shop that's shut down now. Christmas was coming. The window display was seasonal. Red, white. You loved that first jumper so much, I made you 2 more. You cried your face into blanc mange when one turned pink in the machine. So I'd wash them in the sink every Sunday till my knuckles turned raw and tender as youth. Yes, your old mum was young once, with a uniform of her own. You don't have to tell me. To belong, you have to disappear. Can't count the times I melted into clouds of high hair, fake giggles and cheap perfume, slipping on that same skirt, swallowed by that same night. Here's my punishment for all the sleep my poor parents lost then. I used to buy every book, sit up in bed, straining my eyes and searching, but somehow finding you made things worse. So no more mention of you in this house. Photo frames sit face down on the shelf. I gave up knitting, tried my hand at Sudoku. But every night I close my eyes, find myself in this labyrinth of not quite you. People petting dogs and building sandcastles, eating picnics and smiling and smiling and smiling in endless red and white. I'm always barefoot and running, face wet with tears and sweat, throwing that same question into the sea of indifferent faces. Where is he? Where's Wally? Cool, so I'm going to do a cover now. I've actually got a couple of covers that I want to do because I just think it's nice to honour and acknowledge the poets that have inspired me, the poets that I'm reading at the moment. This artist thing is arguably just about plagiarising well. I think we're all feeding off of each other and building on the foundations created by the writers that came before us or the poets that are alongside us. And, for me, it's like a nice nod to that, to do covers. So the first one is from Caroline Bird's new collection, The Air Year. That's probably flipped in your screen, so you can't read that the right way around, but it's called The Air Year, and it's by Caroline Bird. And actually, this just won the Forward Prize for Best Collection. So, it's got the stamp of approval from the powers that be. But more importantly, I like it. That's the best accolade any collection could get. And there's so many amazing pieces in here. But I'm going to share one poem from this collection called Rookie. You thought you could ride a bicycle, but turns out those weren't bikes. They were extremely bony horses. And that wasn't a meal you cooked. That was a microwaved hockey puck. And that wasn't a book. That was a taco stuffed with daisies. What if you thought you could tie your laces, but all this time you were just wrapping a whole roll of sellotape around your shoe and hoping for the best? And that piece of paper you thought was your tax return? A crayon drawing of a cat. And your best friend is actually a scarecrow you stole from a field and carted away in a wheelbarrow. Your mobile phone is a strip of bark with numbers scratched into it. Thousands of people have had to replace their doors at much expense after you battered theirs to bits with a hammer, believing that was the correct way to enter a room. You've been pouring pints over your head, playing card games with a pack of stones. Everyone's been so confused by you. Opening a bottle of wine with a cutlass, lying on the floor of buses, talking to babies in a terrifyingly loud voice, all the while nodding to yourself like, yeah, this is how it's done. Planting daffodils in a bucket of milk. Awesome. Caroline Bird is definitely one of the best living poets we have. So if you're not familiar with her work, do yourself all the favours and go get acquainted. So this is a poem about an octopus. Octopus, there and there again, lacerations of limb, angsty and anxious like thoughts missing their anchors. Octopus, unwitting victim of bad PR, unwilling star of monster myth and niche Japanese porn. Octopus, you move how a child moves, how a Harlem jazz band jams, how cigarette smoke blooms, how loneliness meanders, nomadic, able to squeeze into the tiniest of spaces. Octopus, fuck, you are just the coolest. Octopus, proto-punk whip muscle, hench quasi-jellyfish, cautionary tale, misunderstood, solitary, unsung alien emo of the ocean. Octopus, tentacles lace behind my ankles. I am pulled forward with a soft smack. The ocean licks its salt-rimmed lips. Did I mention I am not the most confident of swimmers? Did you press your fingers to my neck in search of a pulse? Or gills? Octopus, you terrify me. Octopus, I see myself in you. Octopus, I'd like to strike up a friendship with you. We'd watch back-to-back episodes of Planet Earth, which is kind of like the aquatic world's Instagram, pornographic spikes of light rippling the blue into grey, then green and back again, schools of fish glinting like sweet wrappers, coral reefs winking, starfish splayed out like acquiescent arseholes on a background of gorgeous turquoise. My new pal will turn and look at me as if to say, what a beautiful home I have. I barely recognized it. Octopus. The plural is actually octopuses, not octopi. The valve of the last syllable spits and hisses, never quite finishes, will not give in to crisp diction. It demands you sit patient with its aftertaste. Octopus. They change colour, less like chameleons and more like mood rings. As they perish, they turn white as a gasp. I'm going to do another cover for you now from a poet called Terence Hayes. This is his collection, American Sonnets for My Past and Future Assassin. An intimidatingly accomplished collection. I have never written a successful sonnet in my life, but I like to read through these and dream of the day that I one day might. So I want to share this one with you because I was thinking about James Baldwin, having watched this incredible 2-hour-long interview between him and another seminal poet, Nikki Giovanni, two of the most important African-American poets that we've ever been blessed to have in the canon. So this poem is in celebration to him, and it's gorgeous. It goes like this. 7 of the 10 things I love in the face of James Baldwin concern the spiritual elasticity of his expressions. The sachet between left and right eyebrow, for example. The crease between his eyes like a tuning fork or furrow, like a riverbed branching into tributaries, like lines of rapturous sentences searching for a period. The dimple in his chin narrows and expands like a pupil. Most of all, I love all of his eyes. And those wrinkles, the feel and colour of wet driftwood in the mud around those eyes. Mud is made of simple rain and earth, the same baptismal spills and hills of dirt James Baldwin is made of. Please excuse the howling wind outside. Let's just consider it atmospheric. It's like the background noise in a rather hokey adaptation of Wuthering Heights or something. So if there's an occasional blustery sound, it's because I'm by the window and it's quite windy outside. All right. Here's another cover. It's called Beauty by a poet called Tony Hoagland. And it's a bittersweet thing to read, but I feel like as a woman, you're constantly negotiating this notion of when your prime time is, when are you at your apex of beauty? When are you at your peak fertility? Just this notion that our bodies are these constantly fluctuating things. And then even when we're supposedly in our prime, we're often too self-conscious or insecure to enjoy it. And then you hear so many times older women will look back at photos of themselves and think, I was so beautiful, but I didn't even appreciate it. Was too busy worrying about not being thin enough or, my nose being small enough or whatever arbitrary rule of beauty you thought you had to adhere to at a young age. But I feel like this is a really interesting poem, particularly because it's written by a man, about letting go of that obligation to be beautiful and what that means. So this is Beauty. When the medication she was taking caused tiny vessels in her face to break, leaving faint but permanent blue stitches in her cheeks, my sister said she knew she would never be beautiful again. After all those years of watching her reflection in the mirror, sucking in her stomach and standing straight, she said it was a relief being done with beauty. But I could see her pause inside that moment as the knowledge spread across her face, with a fine distress sucking the peach out of her lips, making her cute nose seem, for the first time, a little knobby. I'm probably the only one in the world who actually remembers the years in high school she perfected the art of being a dumb blonde, spending recess on the breezeway by the physics lab, tossing her hair and laughing that canary trill which was her specialty, while some football player named Johnny, with a pained expression in his eyes, wrapped his thick finger over and over again in the bedspring of one of those pale curls. Or how she spent the next decade of her life auditioning a series of tall men, looking for just one with the kind of attention span she could count on. Then one day her time of prettiness was over, done, finito. And all those other beautiful women in the magazines and on the streets just kept on being beautiful everywhere you looked, walking in that kind of elegant, disinterested trance in which you sense they always seem to have one hand touching the secret place that keeps their beauty safe, inhaling and exhaling the perfume of it. It was spring, season when the young buttercups and daisies climb up the mulched bodies of their forebears to wave their flags in the parade. My sister just stood still for 30 seconds, amazed by what was happening, then shrugged and tossed her shaggy head as if she was throwing something out, something she had carried a long way, but had no use for anymore, now that it had no use for her. That, too, was beautiful. So I've got a couple more poems to round off my set. Thank you so much for listening. The one I'm going to end with is actually a little risque, so I'll start you off gentle with a poem about daffodils, and it goes like this. I don't know if the reincarnation gods are taking requests, but in the next life, I'd like to come back as a daffodil, custard adjacent signal of spring, insatiably butter dish bright and brazen, baby, brazen as a fart at a funeral. No one will tell me diddly, 'cause who in their right mind chastises a daffodil? My trumpet head will point to the empty throne in the sky as I shoplift joy from the soil. If you must pluck me from my home, I promise not to wilt until you reach your silent house, and you can place me in a mug of water by the window. We'll both pretend it is an act of kindness. Okay, so this last poem is born of a frustration I felt at the way sex is presented, specifically in pornography. And we're talking heterosexual, heteronormative porn, which, as we know, is made to cater to the male gaze primarily. And there's all the obvious problems that come from that. And usually we focus on the issues around the very violent porn that proliferates on the internet, and things like that. But my gripe actually ended up being a little bit more granular in nature. I just kept thinking about how the men never really made any noise. The women would be yelling up a storm, but the men would be sort of, very sort of stoic. And oftentimes the camera was focusing on the woman's body, the woman's expressions and noises. And there was just this assumption that the viewer wouldn't be caring about whether the man was enjoying himself or letting go or being part of the moment, etc. And that frustrated me as a heterosexual woman that was watching and, wanted to be able to get off on watching a guy not just sort of rotting away and being this sort of very active and forceful penetrator, but someone who was also feeling and being taken over by something. See, this is the weird thing about this career choice I've made, where I end up talking about very intimate and potentially shameful. Well, I don't think it should be shameful. That's exactly why I've written a poem about it. But what a lot of people would consider to be taboo, or things that one should keep to diary entries or conversations with close friends, I've decided to tell. However many of you out there listening about it. Bit mad. But anyway, I started looking at gay porn, i.e. Porn with men having sex with each other, because I was just interested in the contrast. It was all research based, of course, right? But anyway, it got me thinking about how men in life generally are told to just be retentive and to not express things in case they seem unmanly, and how sex is no exception to that, and how that is both subverted and reinforced within things that I've observed in gay culture and gay pornography. So anyway, this poem is called Define Bukkake because for anyone that doesn't know, bukkake is a gangbang, basically, to put it crudely. And I wasn't 100% sure of the definition, so I ended up typing that into Google and then having one of those out-of-body moments where I thought, what am I doing? What is my life? So this poem is called Define Bukkake. Thank you so much for listening, and hope you enjoy the rest of the festival. I type Define Bukkake with the caps lock still on. The cursor quivers in second-hand embarrassment. Everything on demand these days. Answers, solace, a tepid buffet of interlocking flesh, fingers feverish as if speed could outrun shame. Google, cloak my filth, the urge of knowing an involuntary roar. I want what all voyeurs want, a forbidden swim through the dark river of myself. They are gorgeous, laid side by side, bronzed as rotisserie chickens, glistening. They perform size and distance like they did as kids, pissing on snow and jizzing on biscuits, fists, spit, slick round the weary joystick of themselves. They finish on the tense ache of their hairless stomachs, bereft as empty balloons. They are so very, very tired. I like when they kiss breathlessly, giggle and high-five each other's efforts. Sometimes they grab each other by the jaw, biceps a flinch of menace. I pause, but don't stop, hoping they'll kiss again, shafts pointed, twitching, earnest as a raised arm in class. Pick me, their dicks seem to say. I think I know the answer. I like that they're not afraid to be hungry. Afraid to be lacking, afraid to be entered, offered, filled, flailing in the ugly desperation of pleasure. In the straight porn, men are headless, silent mules of thrust and jab, slashed out of frame, only the woman displayed, O-mouth, buck hip, hair a nest of electric sweat, her coming an exclamation, exorcism, artless pantomime, but hell, she Janis Joplin's the scene, all fire throat and gimme, but he just concentrates, eyes bleak as the last bus back home. He allows himself nothing more than a grunt, as if heaving a wardrobe down the stairs. But here, where I don't belong, they catch the fever of their own moans, sacks of helpless shudder, brows and backs folding as they shapeshift, a footrest, then an altar, now a glory hole. You hear that? Glory, biblical, worthy of screams, anointed in caps lock. I want hungry men who insert themselves into this act, searching, getting lost, at peace with the fact they may not come back from their own noise, but refuse to return to the silence, no matter how loud it shouts. I've been Vanessa Kisuule. You've been a very lovely, kind, and generous audience, wherever you are behind your screens. Thank you so much for listening, and take good care and get to the end of 2020 alive and well, okay? Bye.
Yes! I'm so glad that the camera wasn't on me at any point while Vanessa was reading, because I was over here clicking and agreeing with her and shouting to the screen going, it's true, it's true. So amazing. What an incredible set. And I especially loved the daffodil poem because daffodils are my grandma's favourite flower, and she's at home not very well right now. So it felt a little bit fated for me that Vanessa read that poem. So thank you, Vanessa, as always, blowing us out of the water and being real and arresting and visceral with your work. So it's such a pleasure. So before we bring Vanessa in live, everybody, I just wanted to clear up. There's been a little question in the chat about Henry Normal's gig on Friday. I know he's incredibly popular, of course, and previously, when we thought we'd be able to host the event live, so you'd be in the room with us, the tickets had sold out. But since we've taken the gig virtual, the tickets have not sold out. So you're all there, available to sign in and register and take part if you want to see Henry. There are still plenty of places available, so join in. We had the wonderful Lem Sisse with us last week, and we had over 400 people watching. So let's see if we can get close to that or even beat it for the wonderful Henry. So we have Vanessa's virtual book signing as well after this Q&A. Now, if you would like to purchase a virtual book signing with Vanessa, you can do so through the website. So I would encourage you to have a look if you fancy it. Now you've seen her wonderful words and her incredible work. Sign up, get a book, it'll be great. Also, we have some questions that have come in from Vanessa already, from Vanessa's fans, from when they registered for their tickets. So before I bring Vanessa in, I'm just going to give you a 30-second warning to say, if you have a burning question, submit it in the chat now, and we'll do our best to read it out. There's been quite a few, so this is really, really exciting for us. Now I'm glad that you're all on the other side of the screen sending things to prompt our creative thoughts. Just give you a couple of minutes. Dun, 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 dun. All right, let's bring Vanessa in live for the Q&A. Welcome, Vanessa. Hello.
Hiya.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not too shabby. How are you?
Good, yeah, I'm well, thank you. Was that strange seeing everybody react to your work in this virtual way?
Oh, I wasn't listening. I muted my set because I'm quite like most people. I don't really love listening back to myself. So yeah, I could see all the hashtags, which were lovely, but I wasn't actually listening to myself. I just occasionally checked in to make sure that I didn't miss my cue to come in and do the Q&A. But yeah, thank you so much for coming in and looking at poetry, listening to poetry. Yeah.
Oh no, you're more than welcome. It was such a pleasure to watch you read. And I know what you mean about not listening to your own voice back. It is mortifying. So I am going to try and power through all the questions that we've got, because we've only got half an hour.
Yeah, I'll keep my answers concise.
Okay, well, don't feel the need to, though. We're here for you. So I'm going to start with Rachel Foster, who was asked, for a young poet and writer, what are your top tips?
Okay, I get asked this frequently, and I think people want to hear these incredibly complex, surprising things, but it's very simple. Just get on with it. Just write. And I think there's a lot of people that like the idea of being a writer, but they're not necessarily being active about that. They're not doing the verb, right? So you've just got to sit and you've got to write. And to have that sense of accountability or of getting your stuff out there. If you've got a friend or another person that you know who's into writing and you want to share your work with each other, do that. There's lots of workshops and open mics happening online, so seek those out. Of course, in normal circumstances, I'd be telling you to head out and do open mics at different events, but that's not going to be happening for a little while. So yeah, just seek out all these wonderful little online communities that have been popping up. Read everything you can get your hands on. A good writer is a good reader. They are very much in tandem with each other as practices. That's it. Read, write, share. I wish there was something more magical to tell you, but it really is as simple as that.
Yeah, amazing. I remember hearing that advice when I was a uni student back in the day, read, and thinking, oh, really? And then I got into it and realised, oh my God, it is the absolute truth. So yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so we have another question from Sophia Sabatino, who asks, how was your first ever performance and how did you get the confidence to do it?
I've always quite enjoyed performing. So even though I get nervous, I don't think it's comparable to how someone who has really bad stage fright or anxiety about standing up in front of other people would feel. They have a lot more to overcome, and you'd be amazed how many performers actually don't like being in front of other people in that way at all, but they somehow manage to push through that. So I almost wish I was that way so I could give you advice on what that's like, but I actually quite like the attention. So, I was nervous, but I also was excited, and I liked the idea of being in front of other people and sharing my work. And yeah, it's the most exhilarating feeling when you overcome your fear, your trepidation, and you do the thing anyway. And that goes for life in general. That rush immediately after doing something that you were shitting your pants about is pretty amazing. So yeah, I just went. I took a friend with me to the poetry cafe, and I read my poem, and yeah, it was a wonderful experience. So that was when I was 18, or was it? Yeah, 18, just before I went to university. I took a gap year and fell into the whole poetry thing, and then went to the poetry cafe, which probably has one of the longest running open mics in the country, run by a guy called Niall O'Sullivan, who's wonderful. And yeah, that was my start.
Incredible. Okay, Alexandra has said, this isn't exactly a question, but I'm a poet from Trinidad who saw you perform at Tung Fu in 2017, and you were wonderful. Keep poeting.
Thank you so much. Greetings from Trinidad. Amazing.
Too right. So Letitia Tunbridge has asked, how has performances being online affected the way that you present your work?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Things naturally feel more subdued. You haven't got any audience energy to feed off. You haven't got the lights. You haven't got that same anticipation. You're in your home. And I think we all naturally have a particular way we are in our homes. We're comfortable, we're relaxed. There's something about being in a space that's not familiar, being in a space that is specifically for performance and for live art that just gives you a different energy. So I think I've learned to embrace the fact that I can perform in a way that feels softer, more intimate, more conversational. I'm not going to pretend that it's as good as performing in a live performance space. It's not. I think there's something so important and irreplaceable about that live kinetic energy of people in a room, in a space. They did that study, didn't they, of people's heart rate in an audience, and people's heartbeats start to match up when they're watching the same thing together. So there is something really integral about that collective experience that I don't think we're going to be able to replicate online. Yeah. But I think what's really beautiful about online performances is that access is being talked about seriously in a way that it never really was before. And for so many people that couldn't get out for whatever reason to art spaces, it's much more feasible that they might be able to log into an online performance and watch from their home. So that's exciting. But yeah, I don't know, it's weird, isn't it? Like I'm sat here on my sofa and like my housemate's like cooking a dinner in the corner and I'm supposedly doing a gig right now. Yeah, it's weird. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I feel you 100%. I've had the exact same experience of trying to be professional to this lens, but knowing just at the side of you, everything is going on. You've got to try and act like it's all fine. So next question is from Hilda Kagaba, and she asks, how do you get your work out there and published if you are a nobody?
Well, let's refute that term. Nobody is a nobody. Let's just nip that in the bud real quick. What you mean is, how do you get your work out there when you're just starting out, or when you're, early in your career? Let's frame it differently. You got to carry yourself with the energy of someone who's going to be big things. You got to manifest that with your attitude. There's a lot of different avenues to the same place, but also to different places. So if you want to get published by very traditional poetry publishers like Faber and Blood Axe and all them, man, I can't really tell you about that. Like, that's a very particular, arguably elitist space. And I'm not throwing shade, there's lots of poets published by those publishers that I really admire. Those are where some of the most canonical poets that we know are published, right? They're the establishment. But yeah, you have to kind of get your poems in fancy journals and stuff. And I don't really know about that life. Like, that's not how I came up. I just went to loads of open mics. I performed at slams. I was just doing that whole performance circuit. So that's what I would always recommend. Just type into Google like poetry nights at wherever you might be living. And when I was young, I lived in Kent, which is very close to London. So I was lucky. And there was something going on every night of the week in London. You might struggle if you live, I don't know, in the Isle of Wight or something. Or maybe they've got a thriving scene. I don't know. Let me not presume. But my point is that, when you're in areas that are a little bit more rural, or a little bit further away from the urban centres, you might have less opportunities, but there's always something going on. So yeah, just, practice your craft through open mics, submit to competitions, journals, go to workshops. If you see a poet you admire doing a workshop, like Caroline Bird does loads of workshops, and she's one of the best writers in the country. If you see her doing a workshop, attend. These are the ways that you can improve and get to a point where people start noticing you, and then hopefully you get published in magazines, and then you get your own little collection. And yeah, it's quite long and complicated, but I'll stop there. But those are some ways of approaching this whole poetry malarkey.
Yeah, absolutely. I stand with you on everything that you've said. So Jacob Weaver asks, what is your writing process like? Do you sit down to write something specific, or do ideas just come to you at random times?
Well, if you're like me and you're doing this as a job, a lot of the time you're writing stuff to commission or to brief. So you have to approach it with a little bit more discipline. It's not like waiting for the muse to show up, which you might do when you're just writing for yourself. So oftentimes I'm like anybody in an office. I sit in front of my laptop and I'm like, right, I've got a deadline. Let's do this whole thing. And I like to chuck as many ideas at the proverbial page as possible and then start to edit it down. So, when you're writing to a theme, or that you're writing a particular story, or you're adapting a particular myth or something, you just write down everything you associate with that thing. And then you start to pick out the things that really interest you. That very early stage of writing has to be quite playful and open and silly and unafraid of writing things that are rubbish. And then later on in the editing process is when you start to be harsh with yourself and say, I don't need that line, or that's a cliche, or whatever else. But yeah, I'd say that that's the general process for most things. But everything has its own different requirement. And when I'm writing my own stuff, that's a little bit more whimsical. It's not as regimented as with the commissioned stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, so the next question comes from Kelly Tomlin, and they say, super important literary question here. What tea would you have had if you remembered you... Oh my God, let me start again. What tea would you have had if you remembered to make one? Love your work, love you, and thanks so much. Big fan, I think.
Oh, that's really kind. Mint tea. I love me a mint tea. It's really nice. Like, I feel like it's a tea that peps me up when I need to be pepped up, but it's also a tea that can calm me when I need to be calmed. Dual purpose tea, and good for digestion. God, I just love me a mint tea, to be fair. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've got hooked on honey with a bit of lemon in your tea. That's also very, very nice. If you're looking for tips. So next question is from Karis Elmar, who asks, how do you get the bravery to speak about personal subjects, especially if it is a bit taboo?
I'm pretty shameless as a person. Like, again, I think it would be far more remarkable if I was someone who very much felt that shame and had to overcome it. But I'm just quite shameless. I'm not very easily embarrassed. Like, I don't, because the thing is that I know that no thought in my head will ever be unique to me. Everything I have ever thought or will think, someone else, in fact, many people will think. I know this, this is like the fundamental aspect of the human condition. So I don't see how I can be shamed, and I know for a fact that horrible, twisty feeling in the gut of like, oh, I can't say this in front of people. That's the very stuff you need to be saying. If it doesn't make you feel a little bit on edge, if it doesn't make you slightly want to clench your asshole, you're probably not taking enough risks. And you're not saying anything that's actually gonna challenge or confront anything. And it depends on what your intentions are as a writer. But to be honest with you, if you're not trying to shake the table a bit, then what are you doing? Like, in my opinion. So yeah, that feeling is to be heeded, because when you feel a little bit of apprehension, it's like, that's exactly where I need to be going. That's how I see it. And not every writer is that way. Again, it's very much about what your intentions are and what you aim to bring out in an audience. But yeah, for me, I am like, I know that my people that are my friends and my close ones, they love me regardless. Like, even if I suddenly got turned on by, the poetry community at large for saying something outrageous, like, it's fine. I feel protected by the fundamental fact that, I've got my people. I've never courted, the universal popularity of, random faceless critics or fans or Twitter profiles or whatever it might be. So I just feel pretty insulated from any fear. I'm a human being, and of course I feel sometimes like, oh God, like, what are people going to think or whatever. But like, generally, it's not that deep for me. I'm just gonna talk my shit, and if people don't like it, then like, that's not my problem. That's very much their problem and not mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. We should print that on a t-shirt.
That'd be very wordy. You'd have to use both. You'd have to use back and the front. But yeah,
happily, I'd wear it. All right. So, wow, another question's coming in. We have Grace Bouchin asking, what was the first thing that you remember writing about?
What, like, ever? I mean, I don't know. Like, because I've probably been able to hold a pen and write letters since I was, I don't know, 5. So I don't know what the first thing I wrote was. I remember really struggling with writing the capital letter E. I used to put loads of lines in the middle.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. I was like, it just looks so wrong. And I'd like try 5, and then I'd try 4, and then I'd try 8. I have a really strong memory of this, but I didn't realize that you just needed the one line in between the sort of the bracket of the capital E. So that's the first thing I remember writing, actually, was this this very strange conundrum of how to do a capital E. Lol. That's not what you expected me to say, but that's the truth.
I like it. All right, so next up we have Kevin Jackson, and he's asking, are there any topics that you try to stop yourself from going near?
I mean, it's not that active a process. I think I naturally just know what I don't have any business talking about. Like, I don't talk about things that I've not got any business talking about. You don't hear me talking about, I don't know, what it's like to be a refugee, or what it's like to be trans, or what it's like to have this experience. And that's not to say that everyone should write what they know. I actually think that that's quite a limiting maxim. And I actually think, although that's a very well-intentioned ideal, I think it's actually quite miserly. I think the imagination can actually stretch far further than that idea would proffer. But there's so many things that I just, why am I the one to speak on them? Like, I don't know shit about so many things. So yeah, and it doesn't even occur to me, you know. I think naturally I gravitate towards the subjects that have preoccupied me throughout my life, the things that I have experienced, the things that I have studied. You know, I'm a deeply curious person and I love to write about all sorts of things. But generally, the things that I know and care about can fit on like the head of a nail. And I'm happy to sit with that, because even within that, you've got so much. You can just go deeper and deeper and deeper, right? So I don't need to be talking about loads of other shit that, one, I don't know anything about, and two, other people can speak on so much more eloquently and authentically. So yeah, like I'm probably speaking on like 0.5% of things that a human being could speak on, and then there's like this 99.5%, which is just not my remit, and that's fine. You know, the world would be so much better if we all stuck within our remits. I think too many people speak on things they don't need to be speaking on. Like, it's so peaceful to just shut your mouth and mind your business. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to have an opinion on everything, you know? Like, you don't have to write a poem about everything. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, it's so true, because it feels like right now there's so much pressure on everybody to have a take on something. And I don't know if that's social media or what, but yeah, it's really refreshing to hear you say, like, just if you shouldn't or don't want to talk about it, like, you don't have to talk about it. I think that's it's really important.
Yeah.
So thank you. So we have another question from Tatiana Contrast, who asks, do you revise what you write, or do you just leave the words as they flow in your mind at the beginning?
Oh, no, you got to edit. Yeah. Oh, no. There's an adage, I don't know who said it. You write drunk and you edit sober. So similar to what I said about the writing process earlier, you get all your ideas out, no matter how meandering or strange or unrelated they may be, you get them all out, and then you start to sift. And that is actually the writing process. That initial thing where you're just vomiting ideas is just throat clearing. The actual writing process comes when you start to craft, you start to take away, you start to edit. And again, that's me. And to be honest, that's like a lot of professional writers. I don't think you're going to find a professional writer who just writes something and then puts it out into the world without editing it. But that's not for everyone. Like, you know, some people, that's very much a part of their ethos as a writer, is that it's this unfiltered, raw thing. And, you know, if that's you, that's cool. But you're going to be hard pressed to find anyone who takes their craft pretty seriously, who doesn't have quite a rigorous editing process. In my experience, in the conversations I have and the people that I know, that editing process is like 90% of the game.
Definitely. Agreed. All right, so we've had somebody ask about your wonderful octopus poem and ask, where can they get this?
Oh, so nowhere currently. There was a video of it floating around, but I don't know where it is now. But yeah, it's not got a title. It's not typed up or filmed anywhere. Hopefully it might be at some point. But yeah, you can't find it anywhere. It's ephemeral, baby. Like, if you catch it, you catch it. If you don't, you don't. And sometimes in life, that's kind of lovely, you know? I think the internet has trained us to think that we should have access to all things at all times. Not necessarily. Sometimes it's really nice to just, you know, it's there 1 minute and it's gone the next, you know? So, yeah.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you, Vanessa. We've actually answered all of the questions asked in like record time. So that was amazing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for all your lovely questions and for staying on and listening to me rabbit away about all these things.
No, it's incredible. I feel like this part of these shows is so invaluable because it's something that you don't always get with the traditional live gig. You know, you don't get the Q&A at the end, and it's so nice to hear about your thought process and the decisions that you make and your influences, because it kind of opens the door a little bit for everybody else to understand what it is to be a writer and a poet and how to get into it. So it's really, really important. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
I just want to take a second to remind everybody as well that you can get a ticket to have a virtual book signing with Vanessa. So please do go to our website to do that. But Vanessa, is there anything that you want to leave us with? Any top tips or points or any messages that you want to leave before we say bye to you?
Nah, it's cool, man. Just like, don't get COVID, innit? If you can avoid it. Don't get COVID, wash your hands.
Yes.
Do something nice for yourself every day.
Yes.
That's it. That's all.
Amazing. Don't get COVID. Asterisks to that. Thank you. All right, Vanessa. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you, and thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, everybody in the chat, for all your hashtags. And we'll see you all hopefully tomorrow for Pete the Temp's Homer to Hip Hop. Thank you, everyone. Bye, Vanessa. Bye.